Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event? Associated Press, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is the Associated Press. How do you hear me?
We hear you loud and clear. How do you read us?
Well, good morning, everyone. Marcia Dunn here, speaking to you from the National Space Symposium at Colorado Springs. Obviously, the big news is tomorrow's 2 space anniversaries. Commander Kondratyev, how do you plan to celebrate tomorrow on the space station, and what are your thoughts on the eve of the 2 big anniversaries?
Please let me answer in Russian. Я думаю, что завтра мы будем, как и все люди на Земле, отмечать этот большой прекрасный праздник, как экипаж, вместе с нашими коллегами и вместе с учениками и студентами школ, университетов, вместе со всеми людьми, которые поддерживают космонавтов, которые верят в будущее и которые хотят участвовать в развитии и космонавтики, и всего. Важность этого события очень велика. 50 лет назад была открыта новая эпоха. Когда люди в протяжении тысячелетий мечтали подняться к звездам, и наконец это свершилось 50 лет назад. 50 лет — это маленький срок. Посмотрите, какой огромный скачок сделан в развитии. От простого небольшого корабля до огромной международной космической станции, где мы сейчас находимся. И мы все надеемся, что
And we hope that during the next 50 years, another leap that is not less than has been done will be done.
And sir, how do you expect to celebrate tomorrow on the space station? Do you have anything special planned?
Завтра мы здесь с друзьями будем разговаривать с нашими коллегами на Земле, будем вспоминать то, что было сделано за последние годы, за все 50 лет. Будем намечать планы на будущее. Будем поздравлять других людей на Земле с этим прекрасным праздником. Возможно, будем принимать поздравления. То есть это будет много разговоров с заинтересованными людьми на Земле. И вечером, возможно, мы соберемся за ужином, чтобы отметить это событие.
Come together, all 6 of us, to celebrate this event.
Thank you. For Katie and Ron, it's been 30 years since Columbia's launch on the first shuttle flight. What are your recollections about that day in 1981 and your thoughts on the eve of that anniversary as well as the Gagarin flight?
Well, having flown twice on Columbia, it's a very special day for me. And, you know, I don't actually have exact recollections of that day except to think that it's what people are supposed to do. We're leaving the planet. We're living outside our Earth's atmosphere. And it's just what's a normal part of life. I grew up in a family where exploration was part of life. My dad was a deep-sea diver. And I just remember being so excited about these steps and thinking that it would be amazing to be part of them. And now I'm pretty amazed that I am a part of them.
Ron, could you comment, please? Could you comment, please?
Yeah, it was a very significant event for me as well. And, you know, I had just graduated from high school a year or two before that. And, you know, for me, just a kid growing up in New York, as far as I knew, we didn't have a space program because it was before Skylab and, you know, the shuttle hadn't launched yet. So, you know, I had a dream as a little kid of becoming an astronaut, but I kind of lost that dream because I didn't see anything happening in space. But the day that the space shuttle launched that first time, I went to my advisors the very next day and started enrolling in math and science courses, and that dream was reawakened in me. And for me, that's a pretty strong evidence of the importance of the space program towards education and inspiring young people to study math and science.
And for the shuttle anniversary, do you have anything special planned, the two of you being the two Americans on board?
Well, I think we're just, as all other Americans are, we're just going to recognize the day. It's a wonderful coincidence that it also, coincides with the 50th anniversary of the first human in space, and those two significant events. We're going to spend the day tomorrow recognizing it, and probably the best place you possibly can. That's on orbit, and looking at our beautiful Earth, and celebrating with all those people on Earth that are recognizing the anniversaries as well.
Well, tomorrow is also the day that the administrator will announce where the shuttles will go in retirement. Either Katie or Ron, which cities and museums are you rooting for? What's your pick?
I grew up all over the country, and so I actually have ties, I think, to every one of the cities that are targeted. So I think my future's set, and I'm trying to be impartial.
Thank you. Perhaps for Commander Kondratyev or one of the other cosmonauts, I understand there will be no Soyuz flyabout during Endeavour's upcoming visit. Can you fill me in, please? Is that for sure a no-go?
Excuse me, I will use Russian language. Что относительно облета Союза, это очень замечательная идея. На самом деле мы сейчас имеем уникальную возможность получить документальные снимки, документальные видео станции в той конфигурации, в которой, возможно, она уже никогда не будет находиться. Это историческое событие, и нам
is to remake an event, and if we are given a chance to perform this activity, it's going to be a most important, the primary task entrusted to our expedition. Thank you.
Thank you. And perhaps for Katie or Ron, Endeavour's upcoming flight is going to be the next to the last for the shuttle program. Is it hard for you two to imagine that the shuttle program is almost over?
Yeah, I think, again, we're looking back over the history of the space shuttle, and, it's remarkable, all the things that it accomplished, whether, the satellites it launched or the satellites it recovered, the Hubble Space Telescope, and the major role that it played in building the International Space Station. And I think, unfortunately, it's going to be many decades before we have that capability. The capability that the space shuttle provided us was really amazing. And it's going to be bittersweet when the last shuttle lands on that day. But on one hand, we're going to recognize all the accomplishments, but on the other hand, we're going to look towards the future and look towards the next step.
And I think I have time perhaps for one more question. I'm sorry to say again, but for Katie or Ron, so much attention has surrounded Endeavour's commander, Mark Kelly, given his difficult family situation, as one of the crew put it recently. Do you expect all the attention on his wife to draw away from the actual mission itself, perhaps overtake events, or no?
No, not at all. I think Mark is a professional, and he is. I flew with him on his last flight when we delivered the Japanese module that we're in right now, and I can tell you that he is an amazing individual who can focus on the job. He'll get the job done, and he won't allow those distractions to interfere his ability to command the mission in any way.
Well, thank you on my behalf. Godspeed, and happy Cosmonautics Day tomorrow, and happy shuttle anniversary to you all.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the Associated Press portion of the event. Please stand by for a voice check from CBS News.
Station, this is Bill Harwood, CBS News. How do you hear me?
We read you loud and clear, sir, on board the International Space Station.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you guys taking time for this today. I'd like to start with Commander Kondratyev, if I could. Kind of repeating questions you've just answered, but as everyone knows, tomorrow's the 50th anniversary of Yuri Gagarin's flight back in 1961, and I was just wondering what your thoughts are on this historic anniversary as you orbit Earth in a space station that Yuri Gagarin could never have imagined.
Действительно, это событие имеет большое значение. Как вы знаете, Организация Международных Наций сделала сообщение, что этот праздник отныне будет праздновать Международный день первого полета в космос. Это действительно так, большое международное событие. И это заслуга всех людей и всех поколений, которые трудились для того, чтобы этот полет совершился. Новая космическая эпоха, которая настала, это действительно дает человечеству огромный толчок в развитии, заставляет развиваться, создавать новые технологии, двигаться вперед. Это большое имеет значение для развития всего человечества.
It's of great significance to the development of all the humankind.
Thank you. And how do you guys plan to celebrate this anniversary on board this space station?
Well, officially, it's a day off for us. In practice, we will not have any technical task more than the one required to maintain the station in orbit or to maintain the station. But we will have several, if not a dozen of events where we will talk to a school, to meetings, to people, to a lot of people, celebrating with them this important day. So it will be our way to recognize the event, recognize the feat of Yuri Gagarin, and recognize the fact that humanity that day left the world keeping going for looking for exploration and looking outside.
Thanks. And let me ask a similar question to, I don't know, how about Andrei Borisenko? Andrei Gagarin's flight was a tremendous achievement for the Soviet Union, and I'm sure it's an honor for you to be on board during the anniversary. What comes to your mind when you reflect on the significance of that first manned spaceflight?
Я счастлив, что мне выпало в эту знаменательную дату выполнить свой первый космический полет, и то, что я нахожусь здесь на борту. Безусловно, меня переполняет гордость от того, что нашему экипажу выпало лететь на корабле имени Юрия Алексеевича Гагарина, и то, что мы в канун праздника приступили к своей вахте на Международной космической станции. Ну, я чувствую, как
feel like my friends, we have a great responsibility because people will be judging on the results of our activities, the achievements attained by space exploration.
Thanks. And let me ask Ron Garan a question, if I can. Ron, 50 years ago, Gagarin's flight really kicked off the Cold War space race and arguably prompted NASA's push to the moon with Apollo. And now here we are 50 years later. NASA's giving up its own manned spacecraft and is going to rely on its former Cold War rivals for transportation to and from orbit. So I guess the question is, that would have been unimaginable a few years ago. And so I guess part of my question is this a case of, it almost seems like tortoise and the hare kind of a scenario. Is it short-sighted politics in the U.S., or is it just normal evolution in a high-tech endeavor like spaceflight?
Well, I think the important thing to realize here is, 50 years ago when that first step into space was taken, it was a competition. It was basically an antagonistic competition between two nations. But what came of that space program, even at the height of the Cold War, somehow these two nations that were not, always very friendly to each other found a way to cooperate in the space program, in the Apollo-Soyuz program. And, now look at us, on board today, we represent 15 nations, but we really represent all the nations of the world. And, I think that's the legacy that the space program brings. It brings people together. And I think, this might be my own opinion, but I really believe that the world is a safer place than it would be otherwise if those first steps weren't taken into space. But the other side of your question was, are we abandoning our role in space by retiring the space shuttle? And the answer is no. This is a necessary step that we had to take so that we can go on to the next step that we're going to take in exploration, the heavy lift boosters and the spacecraft that will take us out of low Earth orbit. That's really what our goal is to get out of the business of low Earth orbit, turn that over to commercial enterprises, and to get on to what NASA and the other government agencies are really designed for, and that's exploration, is pushing that envelope and going farther and farther.
Well, for Katie Coleman, the way he phrased looking at the space shuttle, I always tell folks that it might be time to replace it, but everyone's going to miss it when it's gone. What do you think of the legacy of the shuttle on the 30th anniversary of STS-1?
Well, we're right now, sitting or floating in a module that was brought up on the station, on the shuttle, as well as many other parts of the station here. And there's just too many things to count. I myself was on a mission where we launched the Chandra X-ray Observatory, and I still get little emails every single week telling me what kinds of images Chandra is bringing back and what we've learned about dark matter, black holes, and our very own universe. And so I think that these things that we have gained from the shuttle are intangible and yet so important. And one of the most important is what the space program does for our young people. It makes them want to know things and be curious and sign up for math and science so that they can be part of the bigger future. And so when I see a space shuttle, I really see the younger generation inspired by that, and I see our future richer for it. So I'm sad to see the space shuttles go, and at the same time, I'm looking forward to the next steps.
Katie, I was watching 2001: A Space Odyssey for about the 50th time the other night, and I was struck by how believable that vision of giant space stations and moon bases was back in 1968. Are you disappointed humanity hasn't done more in space in the first 50 years?
Well, there's really big steps, and there's a lot of small steps that are necessary. And I will say it's frustrating sometimes. And even here on board, we'd like to do some things right away, but actually it takes a lot of small steps to make sure that everything is lined up and in the right place, and that we're able to do things safely and actually in a way that's going to make them work. And by nature, I think all of us as astronauts are somewhat impatient and want to make a lot of things happen, but we have to be a little patient. So I would wish that we had gone further, and I think that's just human nature, and I'm sure that we're going to go further, but both the small steps and the large steps are important. You can't get around it.
Thanks. And the last one here, and we may lose your answer, I'm told, because of coverage issues, but May 5th is the 50th anniversary of Alan Shepard's flight in Mercury, and that's kind of gotten lost in the Yuri anniversary and the shuttle anniversary. Just wondering if either of the U.S. astronauts had any thoughts about Alan Shepard's flights. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I think that's a very important milestone to recognize as well, because that's really where we as a nation got our start, and what came out of that first step was landing men on the moon and the space shuttle and the space station. So I think it's a very significant event, a very significant date to recognize.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Associated Press and CBS News. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.